Alright, so in the interest of starting absolutely basically, first thing we'll go through is Moodle access, which is just through the university website, and this drop-down menu on the front page. A couple of people have asked in the past which Moodle is it. It's the UB Online Moodle. The other one is for the different tape section of the university. ENCOR 1020 is the code for the class. You should all be enrolled in that and able to view it through your Moodle. If you're not, come and see either Carl or myself. Welcome. And as is written on the board, exercise 1A and 1B will be the focus of today's classes. So we can just download those. I've downloaded them ahead of time. Should be in Google Docs, Google Drive. Right. Now, as we've got two documents here, you might notice that 1A and 1B are identical except for formatting. That is to say, the text within them is both the same. And again, you might have guessed that we're going to get you to format 1A to look like 1B. One handy shortcut in Windows that some people might not yet be aware of is the fact that you can grab the top of a window and drag it hard against the left or right of the screen in order to just use half. This is quite handy in this particular circumstance because we're viewing one document with reference to another. And so I'd encourage you all to do so if you have not already. In document 1B, if we click on the text, title, report or document, in the Home tab in Word, we can get information about the particular text we're looking at. So we can see that it's Arial type font, size 22, and that it's bold. If you highlight the text in 1A, you can set it to the same size, the same font type, and set it to bold. You don't have to use keyboard shortcuts. Obviously, no one can make you do that sort of thing, and if you don't find it convenient to do so, by all means, use the ribbon. But I personally think that keyboard shortcuts are greatly helpful. They save a lot of time. And should you ever forget what a particular shortcut is, mousing over the icon for it on the ribbon will usually tell you. So in this case, bold is Control B. And so the first thing I've done, I've got this document to have Arial 22 bold, the same as this one over here. Very, very complicated concepts to start off with. Yeah, we have to start from a pretty basic level. Can't assume any prior knowledge. Arial 14 type bold, bold font. So again, I'll just get you guys all to do this. If you have any difficulties, by all means, just sing out. Yeah, let's go through and change all these things. We have also available on Moodle. You may have noticed this tutorial week 1 document. That has contained within pretty much everything I'm going to say today, just written out in different words. So the idea of this tutorial is to get an example for back and forth if there's any concepts that you don't completely understand from the text there. But if through this lesson you're able to get your exercise 1A to look very like your exercise 1B, and at some point between now and this time next week, you have a read through tutorial week 1, you'll be thoroughly prepared for the assessment that will be contained within that week. Right, tutorial week 1. So what are we going through? I probably should start, I guess, while you guys are doing that. I'll talk briefly about PowerPoint. PowerPoint's running Camtasia for me. So PowerPoint, most of you will have had at least some experience with PowerPoint in the past. It's used to create slideshows, big surprise. The sort of slideshows you may have created in the past may have been very emotion heavy, had a lot of animations and that sort of thing in it. We're not in the business of doing that in engineering. The quality of your presentation should be judged on the content, not on which animations you've used and why. Yeah, it's really what you should be talking about, what you should be capturing the audience's attention with is content, keeping to the subject. All of the formatting options that we're going to be teaching today in Word will also apply to PowerPoint. There's additional options within PowerPoint, such as word art, which is not so prevalent in Microsoft Word. But all the bold functions, underlines, font sizes, all that sort of thing work fine. Later on, we'll talk about inserting objects in Word. The same principles apply to PowerPoint. Yeah, I suppose the only thing to be said about PowerPoint, if it's not immediately obvious, is to insert new slides with either a right click or from the Home tab. I think it can be done with insert as well. No, it can't for some reason. And you're free to pick whatever sort of background you want for whatever slides. That's really all there is to say about PowerPoint. I mean, it's not a complicated... Okay, so you can have a look at in exercise 1B. We've got a different spacing of this prepared by section as compared to exercise 1A. So what am I, Arial 11? Just to make all things the same, I'll quickly change this font to Arial size 11. Right, so 1A is clearly spaced out a bit more than 1B. If we select the text that we're interested in, which is in this case between prepared by up to email at Carl Schaller, right-click that text and head down to paragraph. Paragraph contains the options for changing spacings. Now, in this particular example, the difference is this after point there. If we change that after to 0 pt, they should be about the same spacing between the two. During the lecture, okay, and I'll just check this paragraph as well to see what it was. So this other one in 1B is 0 pt and 1.5 lines. If I do the same thing over here, 0 pt and 1.5 lines, now they should look about the same. For those of you who attended the lecture on Tuesday, you would have heard Carl mention that when lecturers receive hard copies of documents, they prefer a 1.5 or even double line spacing, probably 1.5 more so, because it enables them a bit of space to put in corrections, to draw attention to certain points in your document. It's less clustered for them, easier to correct. The easier it is for them to correct, the more feedback you're going to get. It's going to make you a better engineer. So keep that in mind. Okay, down here, this student statement thing in exercise 1B, you might have noticed, it's at size 13.5 font. If I want to do the same thing to this text over here, I can use the drop-down menu, but there's no 13.5 option. That's alright, because if I click up the top, I can put any decimal value in here I want. I mean, I can have 0.333 recurring for all that matters. But 13.5 and hit enter, and that will change the font to the size that it should be. So there's really no restrictions. You can go to any fraction of a unit in font size. You're never going to get pulled up by Word. Also Arial, space it down a bit. Right, Arial. You'll also notice that Word will give you a list of recently used fonts. This is quite handy in that if you had, I don't know, one that didn't start with A and wasn't straight down there, you might have to scroll halfway through the enormous list to find the right one. It can be a bit painful. But as I said, thankfully we've got a recently used list, so we can select Arial if we are frequently using Arial. Now, if we go into the table of contents, click anywhere within it, you've got these options up the top. One of them is a formatting option. The other one is the option to update the table. If we were to say, alright, we've got some dots in 1B, we want to mimic those in 1A, and do something like that, you'll notice that we get this message, no table of contents entries found. The table of contents that we're displaying here is automatically built by Word, but in order for Word to build the table of contents, it needs to know what the contents headings are. For that to work, it needs to know what text is a heading. Okay, so if we scroll down a bit further in 1B, you can see we've got introduction, theory, experimental apparatus and method, and so on. In 1A, we also have the same text, but different format. I'll maximize so you can get a better look. Oh, by the way, you can maximize, instead of using a little button over there, or double click is also helpful, you can drag the screen to the top to maximize, or drag the window to the top rather. Okay, so clicking somewhere in introduction, on the Home tab and over under Styles, you can see that we're currently selected the quick style of report heading. So this is telling Word not only what format to put the text in, we want bold, Arial 14, but also that you are to treat this as a heading with respect to the table of contents. Now if I shrink that down again, we go over to this site, we can do the same thing. Double click the text, or even just click somewhere in the line. It doesn't have to be selected. Under quick styles, we've got the same option, report heading. Now if you like, you can go through and click each one of these individually and make them a quick style. If you want to save yourself a little bit of time, you can double click, hold control, double click, double click, double click, double click, and do them all in one. Okay, so if you haven't already finished that, you should be well on your way to. Now if we go back up to the table of contents and update the table, it's automatically populated the table with the headings that we have told Word to treat as headings. Nice and handy. The differences between the table, we'll deal with the numerical differences first. That is to say that the page numbers are different on the 1B table of contents as opposed to the 1A table of contents. Again, scrolling back down, you can see that we've got discussion is the last heading on page 1 of 1B, whereas conclusion, references and appearances, appendices rather, appears in 1A. I don't know about you, but in the past, when I used to write reports and I'd want to start a new page on something, I'd hit enter until I got to that new page, laboriously trying to find the right spot. It would do something silly like that. I'd try and press space and enter. I'd try and get it to where I wanted it to. That's by no means the best method. Even if you do happen to precisely line up the conclusion where you want it to, as soon as you edit the text above that, it pushes things out of line and you've got to re-edit them. It's a pain. If we employ the use of a page break, that will enable Word to know that we want to start a new page. And to insert a page break, go to the Insert tab. Under Pages, we have Page Break. Again, mousing over Page Break tells you that the shortcut for that, if you find yourself frequently using Page Break, is Control-Enter. So, Enter starts a new line, Control-Enter starts a new page. As a general rule, a control version of a keys function will produce a more powerful version of that function. So Control-Enter, new page, regular enter, new line. Let's try it out. Bang, straight away it's gone precisely to the start of the new page. And you'll notice as well that if I make editations up here, except I've got to be on the right side of the page break, that's the only thing. This little, see where my cursor is there? It goes to that sort of half point in the middle of the page to express that there's a page break there. So if I'm on this side of it and I make editations, it doesn't move the font below. Everything stays where it should, and no worries. If I go on the other side of that, however, it will move that stuff. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Okay, now we go back to update table of contents. Oh, also, this zoom, everyone's aware, control scroll will zoom in and out of something. This works for all of the functions in Office, MS Word, Excel. It'll work for Adobe Acrobat Reader. It works for Internet Explorer, Chrome, everything. It's a very universal shortcut. Paint, MS Paint. Never exclude Paint. Right. Okay, so now at least in terms of the text they contain, both these table of contents are identical. You might think it's difficult to change the formatting of this text, but it's not. You can just go in here and make any editations to the space of this text that you want. Again, I can employ the same trick I did before to find out this is Arial 12 bold. It's actually not underlined, so I don't know why it says it is. But I can come over here, change this to Arial 12 bold. So even though this is table of contents, I can still make whatever edits I want. And now you can see that's more or less the same between them. I suppose the spacing is different. So again, we can go into paragraph. 1.5 lines is probably about right. Yeah. So that's what we're after. Can everyone have a go at doing that? So if we're submitting paper copies, hard copies of work to colleagues or to the employer you're working for, to your lecturer or anything like that, there's not a great deal of purpose, well, more precisely, there's no purpose to a hyperlink. But if you're sending a data copy, if you're sending a PDF, a Word document, a Google Docs document, an email, anything where it's data, you can embed hyperlinks within the document. That is to say, a particular word can give an instruction to the computer to go to another place. Go to another place in the document, go to another page, open a client to send an email. First thing I'm going to do here is show you how to, I'm going to go through two examples of hyperlinks. The first is hyperlinking to an email address or an email client, and the second will be to hyperlinking to a different place within the document. So you can see here we've got the email c.scheller@ballarat.edu.au. We're going to need that text shortly, so copy it to the clipboard. Everyone should already be aware of the shortcut Control-C. I doubt anyone will be ignorant of that. Alright, now on the Insert tab, we have Hyperlink. And again, mousing over, the shortcut for Hyperlink is Control-K. If you find yourself using a lot of hyperlinks, you can remember that shortcut. If you find yourself using it seldomly, you can forget it. So Control-K will bring up Hyperlink, and we've got a few different link to options. As I said, the first one I want to show you is how to link to an email address. So clicking down there, previously we copied c.scheller@ballarat.edu.au to the clipboard. You can now paste it into this field. And the program will automatically come in with this mail to syntax. That's the syntax that tells Windows to open up whatever the mail option is. Now, by default, that might be to open the browser and go to Gmail or to go to Hotmail. It might be to open Outlook Express. The point is that it will open an email client of some description. So I click OK, and we've got this nice satisfying blue color. A mouse over tells us that Control-click will follow the link, and we can test the link by clicking on it. As I said, mine opens up my Gmail. Yours might open up Outlook Express. Now, what else might we have? Alright, let's say in the introduction to the document, we might introduce one of our conclusions. I mean, that's a reasonable enough thing to do in the start of an introduction, is to point out a conclusion that you've reached. So you might have some form of sentence, with something like see conclusion. So when we've got that see conclusion or see some other point in the document, you can make a hyperlink to that other point. So before we create this hyperlink, we need a destination for the hyperlink to go to. In theory, we should be able to link to headings, but I haven't been able to get that to work. So we can always link to a bookmark if we make one first. So my cursor is just on the left of the C for conclusions there. Again, on the Insert tab, I'll maximize it to make it easy to see. On the Insert tab, we have Bookmark. Clicking that will open up this little dialog box. So I'll just call it Bookmark 1 or something like that. Okay. Going back up to the part of the document we wanted to link from, pressing our hyperlink button, Control-K. This time we want to link to a place in this document. And we have under Bookmarks, Bookmark 1 that we just created. So selecting that and hitting OK. Again, nice, satisfying, blue and underlined font. Control-click and follow that link to the place we made earlier, to the bookmark we made earlier. Now, documents don't start with table of contents in them. If you ever need to insert a table of contents, you can do that through the References tab. So I'm just going to delete this. Bugger off. Under References, we have on the far left, Table of Contents. There are three options there. I don't know the difference between the first two. There is something wholly unsatisfying about the default quick styles in Word, but thankfully we can create any style we want. So to start with, just have some sample text, and if you select that text and format it however you want, let's grab some sort of crazy font like pastel, is pretty cool. Let's make it bigger, let's make it bold, underlined, whatever you want. Once you've got a piece of sample text and you've edited it to look the way you want, under the Quick Styles menu, again, try and maximize it so you can get a better look. This Quick Styles menu on the Home tab has a little drop-down box. And in this drop-down box, we have Save Selection as New Quick Style. Clicking on that's pretty self-explanatory. Style 1, yeah, that'll do. So that was handy. Now, anytime I want to have some transition between normal font and my quick style, I can go back up there and just click it. But what if I wanted that text to be a heading? If I wanted that to be treated like Word as the sort of headings we had before, that will automatically populate the contents of the table of contents field, Word needs to know that we want that to be a heading. Again, there's a reasonably simple way of doing that. On the Home tab, in the Styles menu, if you right-click on the style and go to Modify, this property here, Style Based On, that's the style that Word thinks you're talking about. So if you want it to be treated like a heading, tell it to treat it like a heading. For some reason, it will change the color of your font and it will unbold. I don't know why it does this. You just have to fix it, changes up as you go. But in any case, we got back to the font that we wanted, and now Word thinks or knows that's a heading. I can test this theory that Word knows it's a heading by updating my table of contents. Because I need an example of something to insert into this document. So print screen will copy the part of the screen, or alt print screen will copy the part of the window that was currently active to the clipboard. You can then paste from the clipboard with the shortcut Control V, or right click paste if you prefer. It's really up to you. Now that we've got this object in Word, under the formatting tab, when we've selected the picture, I mean, we can put these sort of boundaries on it and so forth if you like that. The thing I wanted to show you mostly was this text wrapping section. That controls how the text and the picture will interact. So, I mean, I could probably, what would be the best way to do this? Let's say, in line with text, it's pretty self-explanatory. If we have square, then we can drag the document where we want. And as you can see, the text tries to fit in wherever it can around that. It's hard to describe precisely what these do in words. The best thing to do will be to play around with them to find precisely what works for you. Yeah, so we can do all sorts of things. We can shrink and grow this, move it around, crop bits of it off. Yeah, it's whatever you want, really. Okay, so quite often in engineering you might need to insert a table. Both of these are done through the Insert tab, or inserted through the Insert tab, and Insert Table. So this one here with the graphical series of boxes, just boxes and empty fill. They don't do any sort of calculating things, but still we can use these to represent information. Now, as I mentioned, you've got some table options that are self-calculating. This is to insert an embedded Excel document. When we click that, you can see that all of the bars, all of the ribbon bars, have changed to the Excel ribbon bars. But the advantage of this spreadsheet is that it is actually self-calculating. I can insert formulas into here, and they'll do whatever I tell them to. So that can be handy if you're not wanting to copy out a whole series of information. Okay, so there are some. The first thing I'll do is show you how to insert an equation. So again, we do this through the Insert tab, and we have equation over on the right. Again, we can see that the shortcut for equation is Alt plus equals. So, open that up. So you can see we get this little dialog box to create equations in. I'll zoom right in so you can see what's going on. So up on the, let's say I want to do something basic like x to the power of y. A couple of ways we can do that. You can go up to the ribbon, you see you've got this script option, and we've got the superscript there. So I click that, it gives me two boxes. I can put an x and a y. X to the power of y, why not? But that's a bit slow. There's a faster way of doing it. X up y. Now, after pressing space, it's going to confirm the command and put x to the power of y. Pretty handy. Alright, so that was x power y. Okay, what about subscripts? Subscripts, again, you can do it through the script option. You can put a subscript in there, A, subscript B. But again, that's quite slow. There's another way to do it, A underscore B. and pressing space will put B in line with A. So that was A underscore B. What else do we have? Okay, fractions. You can do fractions with just the forward slash. So forward slash is next to your right shift. And again, type 1 over x, press space, and you can see we go into that fraction line. Unlike with the scripts, in the fraction section, there are some additional options in this drop-down menu. So instead of just having a basic stacked fraction, we can have a skewed fraction, an inline fraction, or a small fraction. Okay, what about some other commands that there aren't obvious keyboard shortcuts for? The square root is the first one I'm going to show you how to do. So we can do that through the radical section. Type backslash and then sqrt. Word would recognize. But the square root like that, and press space, comes up like so. You've entered the command. Then tell it you want 4 to be under the square root, and then command it to put the square root over the top by pressing space again. Root b squared, and I want that to be plus c squared. As soon as I press plus, it thinks that I just wanted that b squared to be under the square root, and that the plus is going to go on from there. Now, I mean, I could have said, oh, I didn't want to do that. I'll go back in here and press plus c squared, and that's fine. If you thought ahead of time, if you knew that Word was going to do that, you can get around it by opening brackets. So again, I've got the square root open. I'll open a bracket and type a squared plus b squared. And when I press space, it all goes under the square root. Then say you didn't want the brackets there, but you had accidentally closed them. You can Control X, cut that information out, delete the bracket, and paste that back in. By the way, the equation I'm going to be putting up is out of HB 2.2 Standards for Students. Editor can do the Greek symbols with a slash command. So slash alpha creates an alpha. Also, even though they're Greek symbols, they still have an upper and lower case. Uppercase A, alpha, is an uppercase alpha. If you can't remember the name of your Greek symbols, you can find them in here. And if the particular symbol you're looking for isn't here, they're not all in there, you can go to the Greek letters section, and then they should all be there. Mousing over them will tell you their name, and the slash commands are how you enter them. One thing I forgot to mention on with reference to pictures was that we can, in the same way as we created a table of contents based on heading information that Word knew to treat as a heading, you can create a table of figures so long as Word knows what a figure, which things we're referencing to with the figures. Under the References tab, we have the option to insert caption. Clicking this will bring up a little dialog box. We might be captioning a figure, as we are in this case. We could also caption an equation or a table. I'm going to call this Figure 1 and give it the additional name Screenshot. So now it has a little name down there. As I said, the advantage of this is that we also have this little button up here, is Insert Table of Figures. Brings up a dialog box. You can change the formatting of the table, and when you click OK, we've got a Figure 1 and what page it's on.